Hello and welcome to Microsoft Virtual Academy. We're going to be talking about developing UWP applications on the Xbox One. My name's Darren May, and I'm president and co-founder of Crank211, a digital agency that produces next-level experiences. And to my left is...
Hi Darren, I'm Jerry Nixon.
Hey Jerry.
And I'm a Microsoft developer evangelist, and we talk about XAML and UWP development a lot, especially here on Microsoft Virtual Academy. This time though, we're talking about taking those UWP apps and putting them on Xbox One, and we're not talking about games.
That's right. It's an important thing to note.
We're talking about, line of business apps or productivity apps or whatever it is you call them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So let's have a look at the agenda for this.
A lot of sessions we're putting together. The first one is this one, the getting started and all the stuff you need.
Absolutely. And then we're going to roll on to visual differences, where we're going to discuss some of the high-level changes that you're going to see in an application developed for desktop running on the Xbox platform.
And we can talk about the controls and kind of the difference in how those controls interact with your user now that they're on an Xbox and not a desktop.
Then we're going to have a look at some tips around how to design for your page layouts on the Xbox applications once you start customizing your views to exploit your Xbox.
And as you would expect inside an Xbox, you're going to have some things that are different. And first we're going to talk about the things that you might expect to be there but are missing.
And then we're going to talk about those things that are unique to the Xbox.
Yeah, things that you wouldn't expect, but there they are.
It's like the opposite of the previous one.
And some of those signature experiences would be things like the background audio support.
Absolutely. And then also rich media applications. You can't think of Xbox without thinking of rich media.
That's right. And all of those Xbox users have a very unique input device. That's the Xbox controller, and we'll talk about dealing with that as well.
And also the remote.
And the special remote. Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, but this is about getting started. And before you get started and start messing with your desktop, start messing with your Xbox, there are things you need to do first.
Absolutely. So before you start, you want to look at making sure you have a Windows developer account. This is the account that you would use if you're publishing an app to the Microsoft App Store.
Okay, so if I've written a UWP app, I probably have that account.
You probably do.
All right, so the next thing I need to do is make sure I join the Insider program. So if you're already getting all of the early bits of Windows 10 and seeing how those work and pieces like that, you're on the Insider program. And if you're not, it's free to join.
Absolutely. And then once you're inside that program, it doesn't make sense not to install Windows 10 inside a preview. And so the latest versions are called the Anniversary Preview, because that's what we're calling the new release.
That's required for this Xbox stuff, as well as now some of the physical stuff you need to just get ready for. You're going to have a local area network to your device. You can do it by Wi-Fi, but
performance is going to be a lot better if you hard connect through Ethernet.
Yeah, so give yourself a better day and just use hard-coded or a hard
connection.
Thank you.
That's the word you're looking for.
That's what it is.
The other thing is you need to make sure you've got plenty of space on your Xbox. You need 5 gigs of available space in order to install the dev mode preview operating system.
So if I've saved tons and tons of videos of me playing because I love to watch it, I might have taken up all that space and I need it.
Yep, time to install extra storage.
There you go. Okay, so this is what you do before you even get started. Now we're ready to think about, what about my developer machine? What's the first thing I do for my developer machine?
So your developer machine, as we've discussed, needs to be running the Windows 10 Insider build.
Yep.
We then need to make sure that we're installed and running Visual Studio 2015 Update 2 or later.
Okay.
We could also use the release candidates for Visual Studio 15.
All right, so those numbers are close, but it's easy to get those confused. We've had 2015 since last year. Now we're all the way up to Update 2. Or you could install Visual Studio 15, not to be confused with 2015. They'll both work.
Yeah. Either of those Visual Studios also need to have a custom installation to install the UWP development tools.
Okay, so if you've built the UWP app so far, you know you need this SDK. This is the preview SDK for the anniversary bits.
Let's not confuse the UWP tools with the preview SDK. Okay. So we've got to make sure we install the UWP tools on the Visual Studio configuration. Then we need to go to the Windows installer site and find the SDK preview that aligns with the version that we've installed.
All right, so one of them is the repair dialog or the install dialog of Visual Studio.
Yes.
One's a download from the website.
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
Now there's a big gotcha on this one, which is as soon as you install the Windows 10 SDK preview, it means you can no longer deploy applications to the store. So you don't want to be using this on your production machine. If you say you've already got a commercial application out in the store and you need to be releasing updates, don't put this on the same machine as that because you will be blocked from deploying builds.
Got it. It's not a workaround like I did only do this on Visual Studio 15, but not 2015.
Yeah.
This is a system-wide problem.
Absolutely.
All right. Problem's the wrong word. Situation.
Opportunity.
We both
Opportunity to have 2 laptops.
That's right. Talk to your manager. All right. That's what you need to do to your machine. So have the Anniversary Edition and have Visual Studio 15 or 2015 Update 2.
Yeah. So now let's talk about what we need to do with the Xbox.
Okay.
So one of the things that myself, yourself, and most people who are watching this cast will typically do is they're early adopters, and they're likely to have already installed the preview for the dashboard on Xbox One, which gives you early look at the Windows 10 base UI that's coming to the Xbox and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, that's going to be a blocker for you activating developer mode on your Xbox One. So if you're in that dashboard preview program, you want to remove yourself from that, revert back to
one or the other.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So you want to revert back to the base operating system, which it will do that if you leave your preview program.
Now, when I'm on the Windows Insider program and I want to get the latest bits of Windows on my machine, I install the Insider Preview app, and that enables it on my Windows device.
Yes, you've got that advanced options on the store, and it'll update your
just
system.
A little app, yeah.
So it's pretty much the same thing on the Xbox. You're on the base, you go out to the Xbox store, and you'll download the developer mode and activation application.
Okay.
Once you've got that, you'll then run the application. It will then check your system, determine it's not part of the developer program so far. It'll also check to see if you're part of the dashboard preview and warn you if you are.
Okay.
If you're not, it will then show you an activation code. You need to take this code and you need to enter it into the website developer.microsoft.com/xboxactivate.
Okay.
So that website will then allow you to log on with your Windows Dev credentials. Remember, we needed those from before.
What I use for the store.
Yep. You'll navigate to this page. You will then have the option to activate a Xbox One. Okay. You'll be able to enter in this code. This dashboard allows you to manage up to 3 Xbox Ones in developer mode on a specific developer account. So as you bring in other devices and retire certain devices, you can add them and remove them and so on.
Okay.
Now,
wait, that's the association.
That's the association.
That's still not enough, I'm sure.
It's still not enough. Once you've associated the app and the portal side, your Xbox will detect that association and it will start to do the process of updating itself. And you've got 2 ways to get this update.
Okay.
The first one is to wait up to 4 hours for it to finally get around to pulling down the download and installing it.
Gotcha. So if I'm paid by the hour, then I wait those 4 hours.
That joke doesn't get old. If, however, you're the impatient sort, and let's face it, that would be us.
Yeah.
Then if you do a hard reboot of your Xbox One, on subsequent restart, it will detect that it needs a new OS and will pull that down. The way you do a hard reboot is
unplug it.
That's one way. That's really hard. The other way is you can hold down the glowing Xbox button on the front of your Xbox One, hold it for about 10-15 seconds, and it will shut down fully.
Gotcha.
Once it's done that, I also unplug the power supply as well, just to make sure everything's turned off. Plug it all back in, and it should start uploading, or downloading rather, the new operating system.
So then there is a little wait because you're going to download the full OS.
This is going to take some time, yes. Okay. It's going to go through, reinstall, and reconfigure. It's as if it started from fresh. Once that's done, however, you will then have a new application available to you, which will allow you to switch and restart using dev mode.
Okay, so once I've installed the new OS, once I'm looking at where I'm ready to go, I think we can demo that to him.
Sounds like a good plan. Okay, so my Xbox has just restarted, and we have the new version of the operating system installed, and now we've got the dev mode activation application up. So if I run this, it's going to start checking to see, is this Xbox correctly authorized as part of the developer program, and to see if it's got the operating system installed. It gives me these 2 options: switch and restart, which will switch me over into dev mode.
Okay.
Or deactivate, which will remove this console from the developer mode program.
Okay, so if I try this program and I decide it's not for me, I can go back to the way my Xbox used to be.
Yes.
Nice.
You will uninstall it, and then probably you'll install the dashboard preview again, because
we're all insiders. That's
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Now, the other thing to note is when we switch over to dev mode, we don't have access to any of our games. That we're actually in a pure development sandbox.
Oh, that's probably to protect things like IP of those commercial apps.
Absolutely, and you've also got other tooling that's running that is monitoring the performance of the system, monitoring performance of the applications. You've got a whole dashboard for management of that. So there's probably additional overhead there, and if you had that running all of the time, it would also be impacting your game performance. And let's face it, we don't want an Xbox One that's having impacted game performance.
Well, that's a great point. No, I certainly don't.
Okay, and here we are. My Xbox One has rebooted into the developer mode, and we can see that the dashboard looks a little bit different.
A little bit, yeah.
What we especially see is we have a developer home application that's been installed as part of this environment.
Oh, that's the dev home right there, that big button?
Absolutely, and that's what allows us to use this Xbox now as a development.
Okay.
So let's run that. One of the things to note is this is actually a UWP application.
Oh, that's cool.
So here we are inside this application, and we can see that there are some interesting things here. On the top left-hand side, we have a hamburger menu that if we open that up, gives us some means to customize our environment. We can change background image.
I want to do that.
We can change our theme color and so on and so forth. So, all important stuff. But actually, the most important stuff is to the right of this.
Okay, I see Xbox One and an IP address. What's the Xbox One?
So the Xbox One is the current name for this system. In actual fact, that can be changed over here in the console settings.
Okay, so if I have multiple Xbox Ones on one network, I can differentiate them this way.
Absolutely. The next one is the IP address. That's going to be very important because we're going to use that to remote connect from our development machine into the Xbox to deploy apps, to debug, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
The next two pieces of information just tell us what version of the sandbox we're running inside and also the operating system version.
This is June 2016.
Yep.
Okay.
So coming below, here are games and apps. Now, these are generally the XDK style apps and ADK style apps that are installed as part of a full-blown dev kit as opposed to what we're running inside.
You don't have very much installed.
I don't indeed, because this machine is clean at this moment in time.
Okay.
Another interesting thing is right here, we can actually go and click on this, and this would take us out to the Internet Explorer that's installed locally, or Edge, I guess it is on this version, and we'll be able to see any known issues with this current developer preview.
Don't skip that because there are some real important things there that are going to be special.
But we're going to cover those later on in this course anyway.
Great.
The next thing is Visual Studio. We'll be coming back to this, but this allows us to pair an instance of Visual Studio with this console.
Okay.
And obviously we can also remove all the Visual Studio pairings if we want to clean up after ourselves.
Okay.
Another nice feature in the anniversary edition of Windows 10 is this remote management. You have this thing called the Windows Device Portal that is effectively a web server that allows you to connect in using an IP address, and you can actually view and manage your system. So as an example of the Xbox One, we can actually look at installed applications, we can resume and suspend those applications. We can also monitor the system performance.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, that's really
all from within inside a browser.
Yeah, and another really handy thing is you can also get a screen capture.
Nice.
Because in this mode you can't use the game DVR that would allow you to record video and take snapshots that you can on the regular side with the Xbox, but instead we have this ability to take screenshots.
Okay. So I see the console settings coming next. That's where we could change that host name.
Yep.
As well as Sandbox. And look, here is the place where you could leave dev mode.
Absolutely. Restart console does exactly what it suggests. So
Okay.
Restart and come back to this mode. Leave dev mode, however, will toggle you back to the mode where you can play games. It will involve a reboot of the system, but you'll come back to that.
Okay.
One interesting thing in this particular version of the UWP development environment is you must have a logged on user in order to be able to successfully deploy. You get a very arcane message that doesn't explain what's gone wrong if you actually don't have a user logged on. So make sure you've done that.
And it allows for multiple users because Xbox is sort of special that way.
It is special. It's unique among the Windows devices in that you can have multiple concurrent users logged in.
And what if I wanted to know if Xbox Live is up and running?
I think you'd look at this Xbox Live status.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, so now I've got a feel for what it's like to interact with Dev Home and pieces like that, but I'm more comfortable in Visual Studio. I wonder if we could pull up Visual Studio and we could just kind of walk through the basic process.
Okay, it sounds like a great idea. Okay, here I am inside Visual Studio. first and foremost, I'm going to create a new project. File, new project.
Okay, and which type of project are you going to choose?
So this is going to be a universal application, and I'm just going to use the blank app. And because we're going to create the world's most complicated program, let's do Hello World.
Nice. All right, so this really is just UWP.
Yep, and so here we've got the new Universal Windows Project dialog. Because we have the Insider Edition of the SDK installed, that's our selection, so we need to make sure we've chosen that.
And it's the minimum. Does the minimum also need to be the Anniversary Edition?
It does not.
Okay.
So we're going to choose OK, and now it's going to go through the standard creation wizard for a desktop UWP application.
All right, we talked about earlier how you don't install a special SDK just for the Xbox. There's no Xbox SDK.
Correct.
Once this is open, are you going to go to References now and add at least the extensions to Xbox?
Nope, there are no extensions. This is, all intents and purposes, a UWP application.
Okay, wow.
Okay, and it's so vanilla UWP. The first thing I'm going to do is the first thing that I do on every UWP app that I build is I'm going to comment out the frame rate counter.
Sure, that makes sense. No need for that. I usually just comment out the if debug part.
Yeah. Everything's gone. Okay, so that's there. So now let's create the world's most complicated Hello World application. So let's have a look at our main page XAML.
XAML skills.
Yeah, mad skills. So we've got a page contains a grid. Let's make the background green, seeing as we're talking about Xbox, and green is synonymous with Xbox. And then let's put a little piece of rich content in there, the most wonderful piece of content.
I'm trying to guess what you're going to put in here.
Let's see.
I missed it. I didn't get it.
Oh, you didn't nail that? Then let's add a little bit of style into it, make sure it's nice and large so we can read it.
Nice.
And because we've got green, we don't want black on there, let's have foreground as white.
All right, cool.
Because the look and feel of this application is important.
Well, it's clear you've taken a lot of care, put a lot of TLC into this.
It's important to me. So, first and foremost, let's just prove, no tricks up my sleeves.
All right.
That this is a UWP app that will run on the desktop. So
just run it here. Don't worry about Xbox yet. Okay.
Absolutely. That's UWP, away it goes. Compiling, doing the standard things that happens behind the scenes.
Oh, there's a lot of magic.
Here's the app, splash screen. Obviously spent a lot of time on the look and feel here.
Yeah.
And here we have it, the Hello World application. And what we can see is it's wonderful green.
Speaks directly to pool players.
Exactly. And Hello World is up the top left-hand side.
Okay.
Okay. So now, let's do what we actually came here to do.
All right, let's deploy it out to the Xbox.
Okay, so, do we see Xbox listed in here?
I don't see it. Do you need to install something?
Nope. We're just going to install to a remote machine.
Now, it's auto-detected something down here.
Yes, that's really handy. It's actually detected that on the local network. It's given us the IP address, so we could choose that one. If we choose that, it's automatically determined universal authentication.
Wow. Now, what if it didn't find it? So, not every developer is as lucky as we are.
Then you can just come up to here and type in the IP address.
All right.
Remind me what the IP
is. It's
is.
192.168.
168.
137.66.
66. Okay. Now, the other thing that's key on here is the authentication mode.
Okay.
Ordinarily, if you were, say, connecting to another Windows machine, you would be choosing Windows.
Right, like my domain login.
Yep. But instead, we're using Universal.
Okay.
And that is going to give us a different protocol for exchanging credentials with this machine.
Okay, cool.
So, I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to hit Remote Machine.
This is exactly the process we would go through, by the way, to do any remote debugging.
Yes.
Except for this.
And now, straight away, we've got a new UI that's asking us for a PIN to establish this remote connection.
Okay.
So what we're now going to do is we're going to return back to the Dev Home application on the Xbox. And if you remember, we had that Visual Studio section.
Yeah, pair with Visual Studio.
So if I select that,
okay,
then we get a key value displayed. So now we're going to type that in.
There you go. It looks capitals matter.
Capitals do matter. And so I've now entered that into the PIN dialog in Visual Studio. I click OK. And so that will continue to deploy.
Now, you did that with your Visual Studio. Now I could load up Visual Studio. I could also pair with this Xbox?
You absolutely can.
So if we're developing as a team, multiple people can connect to one Xbox.
Yes. Not simultaneously, obviously.
Yeah.
But we can take turns to deploy applications and debug and so on.
Very nice.
That's one of the nice things actually about being able to run these as a local machine as well, is it's not essential to have an Xbox to actually start building these applications.
Very nice.
So as we're deploying out to the Xbox, we have to copy a lot of binaries and so on and so forth, so it takes a little while, but we can see the deploy has succeeded, and now we're actually initiating the application on the Xbox and doing a remote connection so that we can actually see debugger information. Okay, and so here's the application launched.
All right.
What's the first thing you notice?
Well, I noticed a big thing in the middle of the screen.
Yes, we have this little cursor.
Okay, and you can control that with your...
I'm using my left stick on the Xbox controller.
I also noticed this big white thing around the sides.
Yep, it's definitely looking a little bit different than when it's deployed on the application.
So here's my takeaway when I look at this. It's running. You didn't make any changes. It immediately runs on Xbox, but clearly there are some things we need to do to show a little love to this to make it look awesome.
Absolutely, and I think we'll talk about those in the next session.
And all the stuff we do in the next sessions, you can follow along.
See you then.